when I was 16. That's when I fell pregnant for the first time. I want to abort the baby.
At 7 months?
Yeah. So what these ladies would do when the doctor goes to church on Fridays, they would then turn it into a abortion clinic. And I remember there was like 5 girls and I was at the last room. And I could just hear all the girls screaming and I'm like, shoo. I wake up in the morning, it was time for me to feed him and the child was blue.
So do you think it is the abortion that you tried to do that eventually affected him?
For me, I felt I was carrying a problem and I want to get rid of the problem. That's honestly how I felt.
Good day, Sanbonani Dumelang, and welcome to your favorite podcast. It's none other than I've Been Through the Most podcast right here on Centtwinz TV. Whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on Spotify or Apple Podcast, we welcome and love you. Thank you so much for all the subscribers, the likes, the sharing. Guys, it's not the same without you doing that, okay? And thank you so much once again for helping us reach our goal. We're going bigger and growing bigger and better. From 200k subscribers to 300k subscribers, we can do it. Well, we bring you another exciting and riveting episode today. I can tell you now, it's an episode you want to stick and watch from beginning to end. Lebogang, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me. It's an honor.
Thanks for being here. I mean, for us, it's not just about entertainment or exciting content.
Yeah.
It's about content that, inspires, that is impactful, and most of all, that is real.
Yeah.
So real and
raw.
Real and raw. And you are here today to tell us your story. If you could just please introduce yourself. Tell us, who are you?
My name is Lebogang Brenda Motsumi. I am an author, inspirational speaker, life coach, and an up-and-coming entrepreneur. That's who I am.
Let's get straight into your story. I know your story is quite lengthy
because
you've gone through so much. So I don't want us to waste any more time. So can you take us through your journey, where it started? I know you started at the age of 13, but take us from the beginning.
Well, my story is that of self-inflicted pain and obviously pain inflicted by others, right? And one thing about my story is I've taken accountability of my part played for whatever it is or wherever it is I found myself today, And it all starts when I was, I think, 13, right? Even though I had gotten molested at the age of 6, but these images only came later onto my life, and I thought they were nightmares and whatever the case is, right? But at 13, I had very low self-esteem, all right? I went to a multiracial school, but I don't come from a very good home, right? In terms of a financial background, it was a good home, but financially we were not good. My mom was a domestic worker and my dad was a baker, right? And then we were staying in the suburbs, but the back house of the big house. So I'll go to a school where all the kids come from the big houses. So I kind of didn't understand why I was different, and I was not, I guess, the prettiest girl in school because I was big, and you always get bullied because of your weight and whatever the case is. So I then lived a life of wanting to fit in. Right? So I would do anything for me to probably trend in school and whatever my friends are doing, I would do.
You wanted to be popular. I wanted to be popular.
Yeah. I wanted to be seen.
For attention.
Seeking validation as well. You know what I'm saying? And then that led me to breaking my virginity at 13. And the sad part about this is the girl who was trending for breaking her virginity was lying about it. Because I had no backbone, I went. And I did it for real.
Oh, so somebody trended for breaking their virginity.
Yeah, it was a friend of mine.
So that's how you become popular.
Exactly. I'm like, no, I'm going to do this, And I did it. Unfortunately, found out, I think, weeks later that she was actually lying. And I think that's when my rebellious lifestyle started. Because now we're bunking school, we're smoking weed, we send adults to the bottle store to buy whatever, and all of this was really made not from a point of this is what I want to do. I just really wanted to feel important. And it's not because my mom didn't make me feel important, because my dad was physically there but emotionally absent, you know. And then later on, my parents got divorced, and now there was then the void of the father figure. Even though he was emotionally absent, he was still there, and I was the kid he would take around with every day. And I think that's what led me to making a lot of the decisions that I made. But you know, when you go to a new school, you're from Joburg, you're popular, everyone wants a piece of you. That's exactly what I wanted, you know. And for most of my life, that's what I went around chasing. And I remember while I was in Nelspruit, I was visiting a friend, and I almost got gang raped by 10 guys because we were coming from a party. This is what, I'm 14, 15? I was 15 actually. And we were coming from a 21st birthday party, and these guys had always bothered me during the day, and, you know, I would tell them where to get off. So on that specific night, I was a target to them, you know. But I wasn't gang raped. Instead, they stabbed me on my finger and on my head. But the same night, a policeman came to come save me. I think he was coming from work and saw the commotion because they were pulling me. Like, there was just commotion. And he then shot his gun on the air, like a warning bullet, a warning thingy. And then obviously the crowd dispersed and everyone ran away. He took me to the clinic. But now, because we had gotten out the window at my friend's house, it was kind of difficult for him to knock at 3 a.m. and say, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, no, you can spend a night at my house. He's a
The
cop,
police officer.
you know. Yeah. And I trusted him. And I was like, okay, I'll spend the night there, and he'll take me there in the morning and explain this is what happened.
Yeah.
And he had offered he'll drive me back home because I was visiting another location.
Yes.
And yeah, instead he took advantage, you know, and he ended up sleeping with me. And I think years later, when I became an activist, that's when I understood that it was actually rape. At the time, I felt maybe I owe him because he saved me.
He saved you.
You know what I'm saying? Hence I'm saying a lot of my pain was self-inflicted. I'm not saying what he did was right. You know what I'm saying? But I really could have made different choices.
Sure. That is so sad. How old were you then?
15. I was 15.
Sure.
I was 15.
You'd expect an entire policeman would know, you know,
Better.
exactly what he's
Did
doing.
he take you home
Exactly.
after that?
No. So the next morning, he just said, "Yeah, you can go."
Find your way.
And then I went. So my friend's house was not really far from his house, so I walked down, and obviously, you know, explained to the parents. They were angry, and then I went back home. And obviously now I'm going back home because they had stabbed me on the head. At the clinic, they just like kind of remove the hair and stitch you. So now I'm going back home with a bandage on my head, and I've got a scar here around my finger and stuff. At the time, my grandfather unfortunately had passed away, so it was just my sister and I, and staying at the house.
Imagine that physical pain that you're going through, Sissy. Now you have to deal with the emotional pain as well, because you've just been raped. You stabbed, and then you were almost gang raped, and you are so young and vulnerable, and now you get home, you have to deal with the fact that your parents are like, where were you?
My
know?
sister,
your sister is
my
like,
sister called my mom back in Joburg.
Yes.
Like, your child has disappeared. I'm not laughing, but I'm just thinking I did the most craziest things. You know what I'm saying? And you would think that encounter would be like a wake up call.
Yes.
Like, you know, get yourself together. You know what I'm saying?
What happened after that?
So I think it was towards the end of the year. I think I kind of did calm down in terms of the partying and the lifestyle. And then my mom did come and fetch me, but now she fetched me the next school year. And now I came back to Joburg to continue school in Joburg. And I remember we go around trying to fill voids with things, and that void never got filled. So I still have the self-esteem issues and the void and whatever. Now I'm back in Joburg, and in my head it's like I'm back to the competition, right? And in Nelspruit there was none of that. I was the popular
You were the girl,
you know. And so the lifestyle kind of continued when I came back to Johannesburg, and it actually got worse.
What did you do, girl? But did you tell your mom that you had been raped, or you didn't look at it as rape?
I didn't look at it
time.
as rape until I was an activist. Because later on in my life I became an activist. And obviously when you go through certain trainings, then you understand consent, you know. And I was like, oh, okay, this is what happened to me. And actually the first time my family found out was in 2018 when I wrote my book. That's when I opened up about a lot of things that I had not previously opened up
Okay.
about. I'm living with 5 chronic illnesses, right? Kidney failure, anemia, hypertension, HIV, and bipolar. So the anemia and hypertension, it's because of the kidney failure. I've had termination of pregnancies. One failed one, 3 successful ones, and then I then fell pregnant again, but I kept the baby, and then I lost my uterus, and it was due to the backstreet abortions that I did. And I think that's why I'm an activist today. I'm obviously not activating for young women to have terminations, but just to give them information. At the end of the day, it's up to them. As much as I'm Christian now and I have different beliefs, but I've got the information. If that's what they need, I'll give them, and it's literally up to them what they're going to do after that, because I wouldn't want one to then end up getting a backstreet abortion because I didn't give them information, and they could end up losing their uterus, which is, I think it's a scar that you never get over.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Because now I'm older, I know better, I want to start a family, but
Yes.
as much as there's ways to do it and have kids and whatever, but I don't think it's the same. You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
So let's go back then. Now that we know everything that you've been through, take us through that journey. Narrate it for us. When did you get what, followed by what? How did you get the HIV? How did you get to the abortions? What happened? Were you raped?
Okay.
Was it your decision? So take us through that.
Okay, cool. So I'll start with when I was 16. That's when I fell pregnant for the first time, and it was easy for me to hide it because mom was staying at work. Not that she didn't want to stay with me. Work required her to stay there because she would start very early and she couldn't travel. And so I literally did what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it. And they found out that I was pregnant at 7 months. And at the time I was going to a private school, and private schools don't keep pregnant girls. They kick you out. So it was a matter of, what am I going to do? And my family asked, and I was like, I want to abort the baby. And
At 7 months?
Yeah, it's 7 months.
That's risky.
Very risky. And it was a horrible, horrible experience. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. And we found a place somewhere. So what these ladies would do when the doctor goes to church on Fridays, they would then turn it into a abortion clinic. You know? Yeah, so the doctor would go to church and they go for like 2 hours, I'm not sure. And then during that time, they would get their clients.
The receptionists?
No.
Like
the
the
ladies
nurses
who work there. I'm
with
thinking
the
they're
doctor.
nurses. The ones that work with the doctor.
Okay.
Usually when you go to a doctor, there's someone who would take your vitals
Yes.
and whatever. I'm not sure if they were nurses though.
Yes.
Right. So we found the place. Can't even remember how we found it. Myself and my mom.
Okay.
So because it was a decision I took, my mom supported me.
Yes.
It's not that my mom
Wanted the decision.
wanted the decision.
Yes,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
They asked me what I wanted to do, and this is what I said I want to do. And my mom is one who would support me if this is what I want. As much as she's a very strict mom,
Yeah.
but she supported me and she went with me. And I remember there was like 5 girls, and I was at the last room, and I could just hear all the girls screaming, and I'm like, shoo, what's happening? But in my mind, I was thinking, I want to get rid of this, and I want to go back to school. So at the time, I blocked whatever that was happening. I wasn't really thinking about it. For me, I felt I was carrying a problem, and I want to get rid of the problem. That's honestly how I felt, and I'm very honest about my story. I'll never lie. And then they got to me. So what they do is they insert something which looks like a UDI to kind of open the uterus, and they tell you when you start experiencing pains and blood comes out, you go to the hospital. It's going to be like it's a miscarriage. Right? So we did that, went back home. It was very painful. I can take pain, so I don't remember screaming or
So they sort of
crying.
induce a miscarriage. So they don't do the whole process.
No,
they
no,
sort of
no.
like start the process.
They start the process and tell you, Guti, when this starts, then just pull out the I guess it's it looks like an IUD thing,
yeah.
but I'm not sure what exactly it is. And then I had pains Friday, Saturday. Now Sunday, my mom, because apparently I was now turning pale, my mom was like, nope, I'm going back to that place. So on her way there, we stay next to a hospital. On her way there, she bumps into nurses and she explains that this is what's happening in the house.
Yes.
And they're like, take your child. to a hospital, they'll understand. And like bakasili jikis or anything like that. And we went there. That abortion was not successful. They removed whatever, but the uterus now had an opening, so it was like now a high risk pregnancy. But I decided that I'll keep the pregnancy. Still went to school, but I was hiding. I'd wear a jersey and a blazer just to hide the pregnancy, because I'll obviously get kicked out. And I think 2 months later, it was in June, I went into labor. So that was at 8 months. It was a month later, apologies. I went into labor, then I gave birth to a premature son. His name was Khomoto. And he was discharged from hospital because his lungs were okay. He could breathe on his own. And I was obviously looking after him because Ma would come every evening, but she couldn't sleep there because it was risky. You know, I stay near Hillbrow. It's risky for her to travel back home.
Okay.
I mean, to work in the morning, like at 5 a.m. So she would come when she knocks off, and then she would leave.
And for you, school?
At the time, I had stopped going to school. So at school, they thought I had ulcers or something. I can't remember. They told them that I'm not feeling well.
Birth,
Nobody knew. You know, even my school mates only found out after when I started sharing my story. It was like a secret that I kept. And one morning, so I would wake up and feed the baby. So I don't know if I overslept or what happened, but I wake up in the morning. It was time for me to feed him, and the child was blue. And I didn't know what was happening. So we have a nurse at the building. I ran to her and I was like, I don't know what's happening. Can you please come? So this woman said to me, I'm not going to help you, you know, because of the lifestyle I led. She called me a certain name that I don't want to say on the podcast, you know. And then I called another family friend. She came down and called my sister and the husband. We rushed my son to hospital, and unfortunately, Khomoto was dead. Yeah.
I'm so sorry about that. Aww.
It's okay. Well, look, at the time, it didn't feel like a loss. I was 16. It honestly felt like this is freedom. It only hit years later. Like I'm saying, a lot of the things I went through, only years later, the emotional impact then hit me. And I think that's why I was then diagnosed with bipolar and all the mental health issues.
Sure. That is so traumatic.
Hectic. Yeah.
So do you think it is the abortion that you tried to do that eventually affected him even when he was alive, like his lung problem and everything?
I have no
or
idea.
You can't tell.
Because now when we go to the hospital, they said it was a natural death. His lungs were not well developed or something like that. But when they discharged him, they had said, so that's what I'm saying. I honestly,
you don't know.
I honestly
she was also so young. Yeah. 16.
So
very young.
Then and I didn't even
forward.
look for answers at the time.
Yeah.
So you would think that should be a wake-up call.
Ish.
But no, it wasn't. But the same year, I met what I thought would be the guy who would make me famous. Because I've always had this obsession with being famous when I was younger. I've always wanted to be on TV, to be a presenter. I used to stay near the YoTV studios, so like we would maybe sometimes be the audience and whatever. So I've always wanted that. So when I met this certain guy, I will not say his name, but he's deceased now, and his family has given me the right to tell the story, because before I started talking about it, I did go consult with the family, so it's okay that I talk about the story. Okay. So I met this guy. He was a Kwaito star, and I thought, this is my ticket to being famous, you know. And that relationship honestly had nothing to do with love. It was just really what I could get from him, and I guess he also had his own motives, because I think months before he passed on, he did go on live TV and say that he went around infecting girls with HIV. And unfortunately, I was one of those girls who got infected with the virus.
And this is when you're still 16, because it's the same year. I'm
now
17.
So I met him when I was 16.
Okay.
So yeah, I just don't know when the infection happened, because we dated 16, 17, and I think he passed away when I was 18. So obviously I wouldn't know when exactly I got infected, but I know he infected me because after giving birth to my son Khomoto, I was tested for HIV. It came out negative, and he's literally the next guy that I dated after Khomotso's father and all of that. So then this guy infected me with HIV, but now I didn't find out immediately because I've always thought HIV has a face, and I just couldn't fit myself in, like, you know. I think when we were taught about HIV in school, it was kind of for them, people who come from the rural areas, somewhat uneducated, who look a certain way, who speak a certain way. And when he told me, I looked at his background, like, it kind of makes sense because he, you know, comes from a township and whatever. So I was in denial, you know, even though, because before he went to the press, he did call me and tell me, this is the story, you know, and he apologized. But I was like, it makes sense. And he had lost weight. He was looking, inverted commas, sick.
Like, what do you mean? Like, it makes sense. It made sense that he would be sick. So you were not worried that he infected you. Were you not upset?
Not. I was upset, but then again, I felt I was superior to the virus. You know,
Sure.
I think for me, because of the background, I grew up in the suburbs.
You still didn't feel like this is me. Like,
didn't.
even when he told you I infected you.
I didn't. Hence, I was like, it makes sense because you're an artist, you travel, you stay where you stay. So I don't know if it was a defense for myself, right? But I was in denial. And hence I'm saying, I just didn't connect it to me.
Like,
you know what I'm saying?
Me, not this girl.
You know, I did not connect it to me whatsoever. And I was like, oh, okay. But at the back of my mind, you know, your conscience will always be like, you know, something is not right. As much as I didn't fall ill immediately. And I think that's why I share my story so much, because people think you would have to show certain symptoms to be living with HIV, you know, and you could show the symptoms and it's too late to even save your life. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I'd always say, if you are having sexual intercourse, test for HIV. You know what I'm saying? Because even if you're married, these things happen. It doesn't have to be one that is having risky sexual behavior or has multiple partners. You know, it's anybody who is sexually having anyone who's sexually active.
So I'm guessing because you were so in denial, you didn't go and get treatment.
No, I didn't go get tested. So that was he told me when I was 18. I didn't get tested. I continued with my life. And the thing is, as much as I was living a fast life, I was one who would use a condom, but with him, I wanted to fall pregnant for him because I thought that would make me more famous. And I just always imagined this headline in the newspaper
that you're pregnant by so and
you know what I'm
this
saying?
Famous guy.
And it's still that void that I was, you know, chasing. And yeah, unfortunately, he then left me with the HIV, but I only found out when I was 20, right? So I did fall pregnant for him.
Okay.
But when I told him, he rejected it. And you know, the weirdest thing is his wife would call me and tell me to leave him alone, but I felt she was trying to protect me. She wasn't doing it from a point of leave my husband alone. It was a point of this man, you know what I'm saying? This man is living with HIV, you know, because she would constantly call and say, you know, leave. And you know, there's that thing that whatever, you know, I'm not going to listen to you. You know, I want whatever it is that you're getting, right? And in this case, it wasn't even financial. It was just because I go to the stadiums with him. I go to the music videos with him. You know, it was just one of that. And because he would pick me up at school with the production company, and I would then get the popularity, you know, Lebo's dating so-and-so.
You felt like important and famous, and you're just like, finally, this is what I've always wanted.
Yeah, and unfortunately,
you fall pregnant, and then, and how did you find out you're pregnant?
I stopped my periods. You know,
you're still not on treatment.
I'm still not on treatment. Tested. So after Khomotso, I did go for contraceptives, but we all know how some healthcare workers treat younger people. You know, you would get lectures, whatever the case is. And I felt I don't want to go through all of that, you know, so I'm just going to stop going. There was also the weight gain because there wasn't much info around taking Depo, whatever the case is. So I was like, no, I'm not going to do this, you know. Hence then falling pregnant and when I told him, he was like, nope, it's not my child. Obviously, the first thing I thought about was termination, but this time around, I did it by myself. My family didn't know about it. So you've got access to information when you look at newspapers, when you walk around in town. Numbers are there, so you call. Obviously, try to find the cheapest one. I'm a student. I didn't have money, so I had to find the one that I would be able to afford. And I then terminated that pregnancy as well. And he then passed away. And then I met my other partner and fell pregnant with him twice. And he also didn't want the babies because back home where he comes from, they were preparing a wife for him or whatever the case
Did
is.
he know your status at the time?
At the time, I didn't know my status. So I was just living my life. I just continued, right? At the time, I had not tested. I tested when I was 20. And for me to test...
So, but he told you, I've infected you. But you just
I
like,
didn't.
whatever.
I did not test. I was like, I probably thought I would have to lose weight first, lose my hair.
So you thought he's sick, even though you guys were together and had sexual relations, you still felt, I'm not infected. Just because he has it doesn't mean I have it.
Exactly. Hence, I'm
okay.
saying I felt superior to the virus.
Okay.
Right? Because I thought it could not touch me. I don't fit what I could call a category of someone living with HIV.
Sure.
You know?
Okay. Here's this new man in your life. You fall pregnant twice with him.
So he would just give me money to terminate and drop me off at the clinics and pick me up when I'm done.
The pain and trauma of the termination does nothing to you at this point?
Hence I'm saying the pain and the trauma I only dealt with years later when I was older.
She was like just a quick fix.
At the time for me, it was
like quick fix, let's get it over and done with. Tomorrow I'm not pregnant again.
So at the time for me, it was a prevention method that I used, I guess.
Sure.
You know, because I think once you do something, you get so inclined and so used to it that you don't feel anything. And I think that's what it was with me and the termination of pregnancies. The new relationship, it was 2 abortions. Continued my life, and I would also drop out of school. So my mom gave me the last chance in 2019 to do my matric. If I don't get it, then she's kind of done with me. So that year I kind of pulled myself together and I was serious about school. But a lifestyle is a lifestyle, and if you're not serious to change it, it will always follow you. And I then found myself pregnant again. But before finding out that I was pregnant again, there were rumors where I was saying that I could possibly be living with HIV because I dated this certain person who passed away from the virus. So my baby daddy was like, nope, we're going to get tested. So I did it to prove a point. Dude, you can see I'm not sick. You know, I'm fat. And we went to get tested, and unfortunately, my results came out positive, and his came out negative. But he supported me. He didn't leave me. And we then found out a month later that we were pregnant. And obviously, the first thing that popped into my mind was termination. And I was in matric writing my prelims. And he was like, no, please keep the baby. I want the baby. And that is now my daughter, Mika, who's 13 this year. And she's a blessing because I think she's also a reason of me turning my life around. Even though it was an immediate change, it was gradual over the years. But yeah, her other name is Chihofajo, which is blessing, you know. And after giving birth to her, I lost my uterus, which was obviously connected to the back door abortions. And yeah.
So but God said at least you know what, you're gonna have one healthy baby. Imagine if you lost your uterus before and you don't have a child.
She was still so young,
and she still wanted to terminate.
So did you have a cesarean section? Was it a decision that was made after you gave birth? How did the extracting of the uterus come about?
It was normal delivery. Then my placenta was stuck. So then they take you to theater to try and scrape it out so that they don't hurt your uterus. But unfortunately, during the whole process, I was bleeding a lot and the machine switched off. So it was what we call a life-saving hysterectomy. So they were saving my life. So they had to remove the uterus, sew me up, wake me up, and save my life and make sure that I'm here today.
I think you were very blessed.
I am.
You were very blessed with your daughter, with them being able to save your life then.
Yeah.
And also with your partner at the time not to have gotten HIV, although you were sexually active at the time, which is why you fell pregnant, that he was negative. So I think a lot of good things started to happen for you. Was it an eye-opener to change your life?
That was an eye-opener. And like I said, I did gather myself, passed my matric with 2 distinctions because I worked very hard.
That year was good for you, girl. Well done.
It wasn't such a good year. But yeah, and the next year I stayed home to look after my daughter. Obviously, relationships end. You know, that relationship came to an end. But my baby daddy, before passing on, was very supportive to his daughter. And so he passed away because a lot of people think maybe it's HIV. He had a motorbike accident years later.
Oh, sorry.
And
sorry about that.
It's okay. So life continued. Now I start working. But remember, I think one thing I like emphasizing about my story, that void was never filled. Right?
You still
So I'm still
wanted
chasing
that.
it. Now I'm in the workplace.
Still
and
crowd chasing.
I'm still crowd chasing. You know, now it's dating older men who drive cars, partying, going to different clubs, buying tables for the girls, whatever the case is. Now that it was that lifestyle, and now I could kind of fund it because now I'm working, and I did have like older guys who were rich, you know, that I dated. But I think my life took a turnaround in 2011 when I was on my deathbed. So what happened was I stopped taking treatment. And I think this I would love to mention, right? I'm not saying God doesn't heal, but there are pastors out there in churches who take advantage of people that are sick, right? And because I was still in denial after finding out about my status, I took treatment because I'm told to take it and I must save this baby. I don't want my child to get sick. I didn't take it from a perspective of understanding why I'm taking it, why it's important, and so forth and so on. Hence, I ended up defaulting. But Nakona, I defaulted because I was told that I'm healed when I started going to the certain church. And I was told if you act a certain way, dress a certain way, fast, whatever the case is. Look, I grew up in a Christian background, but it was never about having a relationship with Mudimu. It was just protocol going to church. So I did all of that, told that I'm healed, believed it, and told that the treatment actually makes you sick. So stop taking it. And I believed it, you know. At the end of the day, it's a pastor. And stopped my treatment, didn't go get tested though to confirm. And then unfortunately, a couple months later, I was on my deathbed. Now, I think that's when I looked at myself in the mirror because I had lost all the weight. You could probably fit a couple of coins, you know, here. And I was sick. I was on a wheelchair. I couldn't eat. It was just really my deathbed. And I think that's when I accepted my HIV status. And part of sharing my story is it doesn't have to go that far. You know what I'm saying? It took me to my deathbed to say, oh, okay, no. I'm HIV positive. But that was a big turnaround for me. As much as, like I'm saying, I gradually changed over time, but that's when I started learning to love and accept myself for who I am.
Yes.
And I then later decided to start sharing my story. It was by coincidence, though. It's not like I planned to be an activist or a speaker. We were asked to go share our stories to young kids, but no, we were asked to go teach about HIV. But I was like to my doctor, I kind of like feel like it defeats the purpose to teach about something I'm living with and not sharing my story. I didn't know how that was going to pan out, but I remember the first time sharing my story, I was in tears. It was just, you know, but now the response I got from the little kids, my aunt, you know, hides her pills and whatever. I felt I need to continue, and opportunities just kept on coming until I told my story on a certain channel for the first time, and the response I got on Facebook, that's what led me to doing this now for a living, and then being an activist, fighting for young people's rights in terms of policy and a lot of other things that I've done through the years.
And the 4 other chronic illnesses, when did that happen?
So I was infected with a kidney disease in 2018, which then gradually became kidney failure. Hence, I'm now on dialysis.
So is that why you've got the...
Yes, what we call this a fistula. So this is an axis to get your dialysis treatment. Yeah.
And also she mentioned off air that you have to go to hospital 3 times a week.
Yeah, so Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, I'm in hospital for 4 hours.
4 hours a day.
Yeah.
So that's 12 hours in a week.
Yeah.
That's the rest of your life.
Well, until I get a kidney, so I can get a donor.
A matching donor.
A matching donor. Yeah.
Until then, this is your life.
This is my life, and I've accepted it, you know. But I also thank God for His grace, because I think if it wasn't for Him, I probably would have killed myself a long time ago, you know, because I have been through the most.
Yes.
But I also understand that it was for a reason, you know, because I carry so many people with me. And as much as I've got my own hardships, I'm able to talk to a lot of people, coach a lot of people to accept their statuses, whether be it you're suicidal, because at some point I tried killing myself. So I feel like everything I went through, I'm able to now assist the next person.
Yes.
And hence I'm saying it happened for a reason. It just didn't happen.
How's your mom now?
My mom is good. My mom is supportive. She's my number one fan. I think on the days where I feel like I don't want to do this anymore, because it does get hectic. I get hectic stories in my inbox. I sometimes feel I've been through a lot until I read other people's stories, you know, and sometimes it becomes too much for me. And because also in 2020 with the kidney failure, I lost everything in my life. I lost my job, the place where I was staying, and I literally had to go back and rebuild my life, you know. And there were times when I was like, you know, I don't need to do this. Let me just find a job, go back into corporate, because I do have experience in corporate. As much as I haven't gone for tertiary education, I'm only starting my degree next year. I do have experience to go back and work. I don't really have to do with this, but your calling is your calling. You can't run away from it, you know. But my mom is one person who would say, this is what you were born for, and you can't stop it. My mom is very supportive.
Sure. Then you accepted Christ, you know, as we close. You accepted Christ. Your life has completely changed. I know you're very transparent with everything that you've gone through, but you know there is light at the end of the tunnel. She is born again.
Very born again.
So she's a new creation, you know. God did something in her life, and I think that's really exciting. And I love that you're not ashamed of what you went through.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you talk about it, you're so open about it, because so many people go through that, but they hide it. And they don't want, obviously, those scars to show on the outside.
People are dying in silence, because as a community, we are very judgmental because of what people go through and the decisions that they make and what they find themselves in, right? And one thing about me is I've got a very thick skin now. I get called names, but they don't change who I am. You know what I'm saying? As long as I get a message that says, Lebo, thank you, you saved my life, I'm good. Those who are going to call me names and look at me somehow. And the fact that I take accountability of the part I played in my story, you know,
that's huge.
And I have learned to forgive myself and kind of accept that I made those choices, but I live every day to make the wrongs that I made right. And that is through by serving and helping other people.
And that's why we need to get the book, honey.
Yes, and you wrote a book. Can we see the book? Tell us about the book. Where can people get it? Where can people get a hold of you, your socials?
I wrote a book.
Advertise, girl. Advertise.
I wrote a book, and it's actually a series, right? So this one is called I'm Still Here, From My Deathbed to the World. The second one is going to be I'm Still Here, Living Life on a Machine. And the third one, I'm Still Here, Saved by His Grace. Amen. So I've got 2 manuscripts that I'm working on at the moment. God will lead which one I take out first. But I feel I still need to push this one, because when I got the kidney thing, I stopped doing everything. So my socials, it's at Motsumi Lebo for TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and for Facebook, it's Lebogang Brenda Motsumi. And yeah, you can just pop me an inbox. I do counseling for free. I don't charge, but for talks and emceeing, facilitation and other things, I do charge, because that's how I make a living. But for counseling, I don't charge.
And how do people buy your book?
So they buy it from me, you'll inbox me. I am trying to get it into stores, you know, the struggle, getting books into stores. But I am trying, because I want to relaunch it, because I feel I didn't do justice on the book. So I'm still going to push it and try to get into stores and launch myself as an author.
And it's a brand, honey. Come on.
Amazing.
I want to thank you for coming to I've Been Through the Most, because truly you have been through the most, but you have managed to conquer, strive, be very successful. Success to me is really that, is being able to be above everything that you have gone through and being selfless enough to share your story and make sure that you impact others so that their lives can be transformed, changed through your life. So you're living a life of purpose. So big ups to you and power to you.
Thank you so much for having me.
And has a void been...
It has. No, the voice has been filled. The voice has definitely been filled.
It kept you busy.
I don't seek for approval from anybody. Look, I know I'm beautiful. I know I'm important. And I know I was created for a purpose.
Oh my gosh. Because I've been looking at you like the entire episode. I'm like, this girl is fabulous. Like her beauty is on another level. You are just drop dead gorgeous.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for listening to the story from beginning to end. Please do go and support her, follow her, and definitely do buy her book and make sure that she strives in this beautiful journey that she's in.
We wish you all the best.
Thank you so much.
We wish you all the best.
Thank you so
Please
much.
share your testimony. We cannot wait for the second series and the third series. We'll definitely buy this one. And if you have an interesting story to tell, you know what to do. We'll leave all the details at the bottom of the screen. And if you're listening, it is centtwinz@gmail.com. Thank you so much for watching and listening. For myself, Millicent Mashile.
And myself, Innocent. And of course, Level, our fabulous guest.
Yay.
It's happening.